And we are here today with Michelle Reines, and I am so excited to be sharing our 5 questions segment with her. If you're seeing this now, we just got done recording, and you can become a member of the live audience by going to pauseconsulting.com/blog, checking out our great guests, and signing up to participate live. And if you want to become a Beyond the Stethoscope Insider VIP access, make sure your seat is reserved and get your own very own Beyond the Stethoscope mug. You can go to patreon.com/Beyond the Stethoscope. So just real quick, Michelle is a speaker, author, coach, entrepreneur, founder of MDR Coaching and Consulting, and creator of the Unconventional Badass Leader brand. And so she went through a painfully humbling leadership experience herself and set the course for course correction and what became a lifelong hunger for leadership growth and contribution. She's worked across many industries, including the veterinary industry and all kinds of private practice, as well as corporate consulting. So, Michelle, for all of our social media followers and podcast listeners, we're going to get into the ever popular 5 questions segment. So, for question number 1, we know that the most successful and happy people have a morning routine. What do you do each morning or evening that sets your day up for success?
I would say my favorite morning routine, which is not my husband's favorite morning routine, by the way, is what I call the witching hour. I like to get up ridiculously early and before everybody is emailing, texting, or my phones are ringing, and then really dig in because that's my big think tank time. And so that's one of my favorite things to do is get up, get my coffee, and sometimes it's like really nutty early, like 2 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
and start and then get that under my belt. I don't do that every single day, but that is definitely my accelerator, I should say.
Oh, so much fun. And man, that can make for a long day some days, I would imagine.
It can, but also a very productive and rewarding day. And it can make for a shorter afternoon because then I can take some
Oh,
time. So I'm doing that. What I do is it's about, they say work-life balance, but I really just look at it as time maximization. So if I can get 4 hours of uninterrupted hyper focus, what I call my witching hour time, that can equate to sometimes an 8 or 10 hour day and what I can get done. And then I can shave off that time on the back end of my day to really focus on fun, family, friends, dinner, and be able to have that qualitative piece that's very meaningful and important for my life and for my relationships and the people that I care about.
oh my goodness. I absolutely love that. And I have to admit, I've had some early mornings, not quite that early. I thought 4:30 was doing pretty good,
4:30 is
but
good.
I always joked around. I got more done before 9 a.m. than most people did. And
Right?
so, yeah, I absolutely
So
appreciate
true.
that. And then I love to ask questions 2 and 3 separately and really separate these out because I think
Okay.
so often we conflate these ideas of success and happiness that once I achieve X success, then I will magically be happy. And we just know
Hmm.
from the research that this isn't true. So for question number 2, what's your definition of success?
I think it's really peace of mind and freedom. I don't really equate it to anything materialistic for me. It's really about fulfillment and making a difference, making the dash matter, both personally and professionally, is what success is, how it equates for me. And that's changed over the years. It used to be a more materialistic and certainly more economically driven. And now it's come to the point of, I just don't want to be stressing or losing sleep over stuff. I want to know that the work I'm doing is making a positive impact, and that I can be really proud to look back on my life and say, I'm really proud of who I became and the impact that I created for others, including the people closest to me. I want to balance all of that. So that equates success for me.
And then what's your definition of happiness?
Playtime with those I love. That is like, I mean, and playtime might be sitting out back at the fire pit and enjoying a great glass of wine, or an early morning coffee chat with my BFFs back in Chicago, and just things like that. The simple things, oddly enough, are the ones that really translate to happiness. Qualitative time with those I love.
And I love that you brought up this idea when we were talking about your leadership, your 12 leadership lessons of a badass leader. And we were talking about self care being
Mhm.
one of those lessons. And also reminding us here today that play is also
Yes.
one of those basic. I don't know if it's a human drive, but I mean, we have this great drive for connection and we're built
Mhm.
for play,
Yes.
just the same as our pets are, a little bit of a different way, but
Yep.
still, it's something that we so overlook as we grow up. And
Yes.
it really, if we can add that back in and have more fun, and maybe we're calling it fun instead of play, but understanding how to have that enjoyment in life, we can really
Very
have so
important.
much greater life satisfaction, don't you think?
I absolutely do. As a matter of fact, the book is all about enjoying the ride, enjoying the journey, of not only just being a leader, but really balancing, enjoying the journey in life. I'm a reformed workaholic. Yeah, I still do work a lot, but I'm also enjoying the playaholic life. So I work I want to enjoy it as I go. And I would say that's one of the gifts of the younger generation I'm a baby boomer. So the younger generation is really good at that creating boundaries to the point of annoyance for some practice owners and some business owners. They're like, oh my gosh, they're just not committed. It's like, no, what they're committed to is the qualitative journey, and the lens they get to look through is quite different. If you remember, not too long ago, a lot of the generations that frustrate us in the workplace today, the younger generation, they lived through 9/11, and so their worldview is very different. It's almost, and I don't want to say this in a depressing way, but their worldview is based on their experience of oh my gosh, we could go into a World War III and I may not live to be 30. And so they want to live now. They don't take for granted that they're going to get to live to retirement, and so they're living the full riches of life and trying to balance friends and family and experiences. And I think that's a great gift that we can embrace, and I certainly could use more of with my generation as baby boomers, to recognize that, okay, well, our FTE might look different. We have a 40-hour work week for a position, and maybe it's 3 people that fill that FTE, not one. And so let's learn how to be a little bit like Gumby and be flexible and figure out how to make it work. And also, how can we embrace that qualitative aspect in our lives, and how that will support us having a healthier mental and emotional well-being, both personally and professionally.
Or maybe we flex that FTE. Some people want to work nights and weekends or evenings and
Yeah.
weekends and prioritize that work time because they prefer to be doing other things during their day. Or, I hear owners and practice owners and folks say, oh, I cannot find anybody to work on Sundays. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's true because, people
Hmm.
are sharing responsibilities in different ways. We now have the advent of this gig economy, which we've never
Yes.
had before. And so not only do we have these shifting world experiences, but we also have to remember that business structure has changed radically. There's no
Yes.
longer that guaranteed pension for working hard for one boss. Now it's going to be, I need to be working for 3 or 4 because with the advent of technology, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. Things are changing more rapidly than they ever have before. Is my job even secure? And the answer a
Yes.
lot of times is no, if we just open our eyes and look around. And so I
Yes.
think there's all of these other concerns with incredible high debt loads with additional education and secondary education that we haven't seen before. So, to your
And more
point,
entrepreneurship. I mean,
yeah.
this young generation, there are more entrepreneurs than ever. So there's a completely different mindset, and 2020 has forced us to step back or invited us to step back and relook at our, do we want to move toward telehealth? I mean, I know as a pet owner, I love the idea of telehealth. I use it for human health. I phone it in, unless I'm really sick. And so it's inviting us to be agile and to think that it's not always one size fits all. As a matter of fact, it isn't one size fits all. We need to find ways to flex as business owners, not just practice owners, but business owners, and figure out how to meet our customers, our clients, and our teams where they are, instead of having them fit into our mold specifically. So I think agility is kind of the word of the future for me, as far as the more flexible we are, the more I say stretch them like Gumby, the more we flex, the greater opportunity we have for success, scalability, and growth, not just for our people, but for our practices.
Yes, and as we said in the military, semper Gumby, right? So
Yeah,
we're
right.
always
I love
trying
that.
to just be super flexible and roll with the punches, because we're in this ever evolving fluid environment these days. So I love having these conversations.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners are enjoying it as well. And for question number 4, I think this is one of my absolutely favorite questions. What do you know now that you wish you would have known 10 years ago?
Well, 10 years ago, it would have been when starting my practice and deciding to leave corporate America and starting my own business would have been to really run at things that scared the bejesus out of me. And what I did instead earlier on was I would say, oh, I'm not qualified. So I disqualify myself before I'd even throw my hat in the ring. And I would look at, say, criteria for, let's say, a scope of work and say, oh, well, yeah, I don't have that criteria, so I'm not even going to try. And so don't disqualify yourself is what I would tell my younger self, is just, suck it up, buttercup, put it together, put your best foot forward, sell it, and then go learn what you need to learn in order to be the best that you can possibly be. But whatever you do, run toward fear responsibly, but don't hide from it.
Oh my goodness, such great advice, because growth is hard. And when opportunity comes knocking at the door, so often who answers is work. I've heard Brendan Burchard say that, and some others. And so we're like, we want these opportunities. We want these opportunities. Oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. There is so much work. How am I going to ever figure this out? And does that sound a little familiar, like the
Yeah.
stories and how that goes sometimes?
Yeah, and then the cool thing though is once you've embraced that fear, then the next fear that's even similar to that, it's dissipated. And
Mhm.
so, I find that on the other side of that, momentary paralytic response is the great possibility for accelerated growth in so many other areas. And it builds your, not just your competency, but your confidence.
Yes,
All the
it is
more
the
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you might even know, it's the confidence competence loop, right? So
Yes.
as we become more competent and we develop our skill sets, we gain greater confidence, and that
Yes.
leads to greater motivation and sustained motivation. So everybody's like, "How do I get motivation? How do I overcome procrastination?" Well, there's your high performance tip for the day. Um, and for question number 5, what do you think is the biggest issue facing busy professionals today?
I think it's just the ability to embrace agility. I think that's the greatest opportunity facing people today, is how can we be flexible? How can we get outside our comfort zones and be creative? How can we tap into a different idea that feels uncomfortable and feels foreign and maybe risky, but risk responsibly? I think those that wait might be left behind. And so that, and the people parts are, I look at businesses, the people parts are the engine. It's the most important thing in your business. And so if you don't handle that first you have to handle your selfie, right? But then you have to focus on people and your people, because, I'd shared this in a different podcast, and I think it's really important. There was a moment several years ago, this probably was about 8 years ago, that I was in the classroom, and I happened to be in a classroom with a huge beef producer. And he, very, very successful. And that makes it trickier, right? To be open to a different possibility when you're already achieving great success. And I was talking about prioritizing people over performance. And the comment that was made was, well, the cows come first. And I said, and he said, that you'll never change my mind about that. The cows always come first. We wouldn't have any people if it wasn't for our cows. And so I said, okay, well, I can absolutely appreciate that. May I ask you a follow-up question? He said, sure. And I said, who takes care of your cows? And it's just like you could hear a pin drop. And then the coolest thing happened within, I think it was the next morning. He came back in because it was a conference we were doing, so multiple days, and came back in and said, "May I have permission to have the floor today? I need to share something." And I said, "You bet." So he came up and he shared in front of the whole group that he was committed, and that he had changed his entire perspective, and that he was going to go home and take care of his people, because that was the
Oh my
most
gosh.
important thing in his business. Yeah, so it's really, I mean, I can't say that enough. And I'm not talking touchy feely stuff. I'm talking about care for those that care for you and your business and your customers and your clients. That's the most important thing. And caring for someone may be having to have a tough conversation, but do it with care, and be really invest in yourself. The best investment you can give to your business is invest in your self development and become whatever version of badass leader it means to you. My version may not be your version, but discover what that is and invest in that, because the dividends that it pays in the long run for your health and well-being, the health and well-being of your team members and your business and your families, all stems upon that one decision to invest in yourself.
Including the patients and animals that
You
are
bet.
counting on you and your entire
That's
team
an
as well. So,
outcome,
right?
right? That's an
Yeah.
outcome we get to enjoy from being or becoming a badass leader.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle,
My
for being here
pleasure.
with us today. And once again, if people are interested in learning more, where can they go?
Badassleader.com. And then I invite them to check out the gift page, which is badassleader.com/podcast hyphen gift. They get a free download of chapter 1 by subscribing. And thanks for having me on. As always, it's a pleasure and so much fun to talk shop with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Michelle, and you have a wonderful day.
You as well.